Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. Today on Be the Good with Kate, I'm so happy to introduce you to Lisa Wise. Now, Lisa has been a part of the residential real estate world for a number of years, and she's going to give us more insight into all of that. But first, I want to just highlight that all of her work has been purpose-driven and anchored in justice. In 2020, Lisa founded and launched BirdSeed, a housing justice foundation granting no strings down payment grants to first-time BIPOC homebuyers. And then in 2022, BirdSeed was named a world-changing idea by Fast Company. She's also the author of Self-Elected, How to Put People Over Profit and Soar in Business. And I'll let her fill you in on the rest. But Lisa, thanks so much for being here today.
Kate, thank you for having me.
Oh, such a pleasure. And we were just talking, Lisa's in DC right now, starting to get the springtime blooms, which by the time this episode premieres will be nice and rich in summer. But Lisa, please tell everybody a bit more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have been lately introducing myself as the bird lady, which I think is the most descriptive I can be. Essentially, I am a natural born entrepreneur, and I'm someone that didn't grow up with a lot of housing security. I toggled around lots of Western mountain towns as a kid and lived in 23 different homes by the time I got to college at the University of Arizona. I found my way to housing and managing homes in the 1990s when I inherited a car, and I turned that car into a down payment for an 1893 Adobe duplex, and I became a landlady. And I went ahead and pursued a nice long career in nonprofit management, but I had a feeling that if I actually had a business, I could have more impact than working in the nonprofit world. And I decided that being a landlady was very much in the spirit of what I was interested in, and that maybe, and I've been doing that as a side hustle for other people. And I thought, you know what, I think I have a really good business model, which is to provide residential management and property management by studying what the property management world does and then doing the opposite. And I bet I'll be successful. And we did exactly that. And we grew one property at a time. And we set out to do three things: take great care of the people that were taking great care of homes, to treat community and residents with respect, and to enhance the value of homes and be a good steward of our community. And I figured if I did those things, which I thought equaled business and an act of justice, then I'd probably be successful. And like good business, it creates more good business. And I was right. So my gut instincts helped me develop a company without having any business experience whatsoever, or even having taken a business class. I got a film degree, and that and a bus ticket will get you all the way across town. And I found myself growing into building a family of companies that took care of people where they were. We call tenants residents because they also are living in their homes. During the pandemic, the value system behind what we do was so pronounced because we were a lifeline for a lot of people who weren't sure how this was going to impact them financially, personally, emotionally. They didn't know what to do to maintain their homes. They were living harder in their homes. And we could be that point of reference for them. We're going to help you figure out how to get this rent managed. We're going to help you figure out why your smoke detector is beeping. That is often the one thing that universally bothers everyone. And was even more agitating when people couldn't leave or couldn't get what they needed. So those were the values and principles that we used. And fast forward to today, we have lots of different bird brands that we started that roll up into a company called Flock DC. And we manage $2.5 billion in residential real estate in Washington, DC. along the way, people would ask, why aren't you doing this for homeowners? And along the way, I thought we should do this for homeowners. We usually start with a bird and a t-shirt and then think about how we're going to launch a business. So we had a logo and it was called BirdWatch. Then we got t-shirts because that's good. Everybody loves birds, and started to build a small portfolio of homeowners who wanted high touch property management services. And I crossed paths with a couple of really extraordinary men who are also interested in providing that high touch maintenance services to homeowners, but they're coming into it from a technology and scalability perspective and business design. I thought, oh, wow, if we combine these three experience sets, then we have a potential to build something that nobody else has really been able to build on and deliver. So I am now still the owner of and a strategic advisor on all my Flock family of companies. And I'm the co-founder and chief strategic officer for BirdWatch, which is now an entirely different company. And we provide those high-touch home maintenance services in Philly and in Washington, D.C. And our complementary Birdseed Foundation is really our housing justice work. And all of the birds support housing justice.
That's amazing. And I love how it all ties in together. Absolutely. And there's so many questions I have within what you've just said. One thing I have to comment on, though, is just this idea of a landlord who is so interested in respecting their residents and creating this culture. I mean, I've been in Manhattan for over a dozen years, and that's the last thing that anyone has ever talked about is a landlord who really cares that much about the residents. So was when you started really working in, that world of we are doing this, but we are doing this from this perspective of respecting and calling them residents and all of this, did other people in the residential industry just say, like, what are you doing? This is crazy. It won't work. Or were you finding supporters through it? Did you find this was very unique? Can you just expand on that more?
Yep. I did write a book during the pandemic, which is, you mentioned Self-Elected, which is really about how I believe our company was designed for success through differentiation and being very lean and being very justice focused. So the differentiation piece is actually being justice oriented in general is so like, I think people think that's misaligned with the intention of business, but I think we all subscribe to justice for all. It's not contrary to business, it's complementary to business. If we take care of the people in the world around us, then those people in the world around us will take better care of us. When we think of people as people and we think of buildings as homes, it changes the paradigm.
Hi, I'm Sophie Lindberg, the host of Claim Your Potential, the Empowerment Podcast, and the executive director of Claim Your Potential, a nonprofit dedicated to creating a world where every woman and girl has the resources and support they need to achieve their full potential. By providing personalized guidance and career development, our new mentorship program, the Empowered Women's Network, is committed to connecting members to a supportive community that will help them grow both personally and professionally. To join this network, listen to our podcast, or find out how you can get involved with our mission, please visit our website, claimyourpotential.org.
Everybody, I think, knew I was coming up with a niche approach to how a ubiquitous industry was operating. But I think there was little incentive to and or interest in changing the way they were doing things. Because at the end of the day, property management relies on like rinse and repeat, sticky contracts. And like, it's really hard to switch property management companies, which is like, it's not as hard as it is just a pain in the butt. So they're like, these people aren't leaving. If I have 10% of my portfolio leave every year and I budget for it, then I don't have to carry the residents or return phone calls. I don't want to do business that's in that vein. And so I think there was like, oh, she's weird. And, but they're doing things differently. They have those weird birds on their cars and they have the buildings and they're doing a lot of community work. And, then they'd say, okay, well, maybe we'll do Facebook for a little while. And you'd see them like on Facebook for a minute and then you're like, then they'd fade out of that. Or then you'd see them do community work and they do like a lemonade stands that looked staged and exciting. And then you 2 more years before anything happened. So I think there was a dip your toes in, but why? You'd have to have a completely new approach to why you were doing what you were doing and how you were doing what you were doing.
That mission and that just like what's at the heart of your business model.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for most people, just profit. And for me, it's purpose.
That's great. That's great. Someone just a couple of weeks before this episode will come out, that episode with someone named John Pavon, who has, there are a lot of parallels I'm hearing because he works in sustainability, but also in that social sustainability and like how the government can be sustainable, not just from the idea of like recycling and green, but that idea of social justice. What are you really doing? And he also commented on that difference with businesses where you can really tell they actually truly want to be of service and of help versus the ones that are just like, how's this going to help us look, right?
Yep.
Or what's the bottom line, that idea. And so this is just, it's so, you're just like fills your heart to hear of a business that a lot of people probably don't think that much of, right? You write a check to your landlord or mortgage company or something, anything residential, they don't really think about like the heart behind that, I'm sure much.
Yeah, people live in the homes.
Yeah.
It's a basic universal need we are providing and tending to, and yet there's we're so divorced from those residents, and they're not the bad guy, which is how we perceive them. They're paying mortgages off.
Yeah.
They're keeping the house maintained or lived in, because a vacant house is a dangerous thing. Like, we need people to live in and tend to the homes that they're in and be safe and be part of our community. And like, it is ground zero in a way for how society knits itself together is housing. And the housing industry has paid little to no attention to what the responsibility is that goes with that.
Okay, so that leads perfectly into my next question of what are some of those good news stories of people that you've helped over the years? Any that you'd like to share?
Well, I like to always share the most recent win in terms of caring for people and having impact. And I have always had in-house maintenance, which I think has always made us a better company. And I came to the work largely because I like working with my hands. We needed to, as I was growing up, like if there was a repair that was going to get done, it was like, you figure out how to do it. And there was no internet then. So you just a lot of trial and error, and you get the work done on your own. And I've always enjoyed the satisfaction of that, and learning those skills. And as we had in-house technicians, I've really I have so much respect for what they do, and they're really delivering the heart of the service, because your landlord doesn't matter when nothing's wrong. Your landlord matters when there's a problem. And we want to be available, effective, and we want to be comforting when there's a problem, instead of argumentative. It's like, oh, we are really sorry you're having that experience. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel great. We see you, we have empathy, and we're going to help resolve that for you. And even if the landlord or the owner of that property may not agree, we're going to say, like, what's best for everybody here? Because what's best for everybody means you're not going to have as much turnover, means your expenses are going to be different. It means you're going to have happier residents lead to happier neighbors lead to better communities. And like it still knits all back together. But having in-house maintenance has been a huge strategic advantage for us, because we can be so much more effective, and we can get to people right away, and we can create accountability, and we go with that. We care about the resident experience instead of somebody out of the phone book who we send to do fill in the blank. I had a maintenance technician come to us having been basically either working on job sites, or he's a plumber, and or working on his own or his 1099. And when we hire our technicians, they get full wraparound benefits. They get paid more than the industry standard, and they get like family time, like family leave and like vacation and stuff. And for BirdWatch, they get shares in the company. These are folks who have not been treated with respect, and perhaps not consistently, right? And they certainly haven't been respected. That hasn't been reflected in their pay, their hours, the consistency, their healthcare, and like their general wellness as human beings. What if you flip that upside down and you do all those things first, then send them out on the job site? It's a different thing. So we have someone on the team, and he said, we were talking about the time he was going to take a week off. And he said, boss, I'm not going to be able to run the tickets when I'm off. So like, I get that. And I get that if I can't run tickets, I can't get paid. And I said, no, like you'll get paid. And he's like, yeah, but I can't run the tickets. And we went back and forth a few times. I'm like, no, it's paid time off. He said, I'm 52 years old and I've never had a paid day off in my life. And that's really normal. for a lot of people that are not in knowledge work and a lot of people that work with their hands who actually need the vacation more than the person who's in front of a computer all day.
Seriously. That physical toll, you must see it too with injuries and back issues and all of that.
Yeah. We're asking people to like really put their bodies on the line and then not wanting to offer health insurance. I'm like, how does that make any sense? You have to take care of the people taking care of you. Like servant leadership is the number one pathway to creating a really extraordinary company. And that means caring about your people, like genuinely caring about them, not thinking, can we save money by having them do it? Like we could be the whole health insurance cost. Because some of these folks, it's like they are the team members, and even your knowledge workers are the team members who are missing that $400 to get through an emergency in life.
Mm-hmm.
So if they need $400, like I'm going to Venmo the $400.
And has that ever been an issue with the business in terms of just like figuring out, that question of bottom line and keeping the business running? Have you ever had to, I don't know, to take unique approaches because you are actually, for as sad as this is, putting your employees at first, so to speak? And your residents, of course, but just showing such respect and help to your employees. Has that, like, how have you maneuvered that with just pricing and trying to keep prices low for your residents? Any of that?
It's always a balancing act.
Yeah.
BirdWatch is unique insofar as we're not offering a product that's about reducing price. It's about increasing trust and reliability and giving you your time back. And the trust and reliability, that comes from a team that cares about showing up as a trusted, reliable team member. And while we're not charging a premium, what we are doing is encouraging people to say, oh, I actually now want to do these things in my home I have not gotten to because I have the right team. Then you start having cascading tickets, right? You have work coming in because when we get called on like a home warranty, who's like, they're designed to say no, we say, great, would you like us to come and do that task? And is there anything else that we can do for you? And then Chuck shows up and he replaces the hot water heater. And then he says, would you like me to check all your supply lines? We know we did it the first time we were there, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. Chuck's going to do that. But if you call Jiffy Plumbing, they're not doing any of that. And they're going to charge you double for the hot water heater because you don't know how much the hot water heater is supposed to cost, but we do. And you just make one phone call and we can help you navigate all of that. The unit economics are just different. They're just going to come to you in different ways, right? So you may have a higher spend on staffing and your W-2 staffing and benefits in the balance. But if you start to track and trend all of the billable hours and the time that you can, and the time between, and creating new efficiencies, like having parts runners, and figuring out how you blend your talent base so that you have that average that gets you to a competitive place and you can make money and you can make people happy. And this is a happy business. That's what I always tell people.
And I'm so glad you explained that because I can just hear the people going, okay, yeah, this sounds good on paper, but like, how are they paying their bills? And it makes so much sense when you lay it out. It really does. And it's so aggravating, infuriating. I mean, me listening to the story, knowing that not everyone works this way. And I'm sure you're aggravated by it every day, that it's not more of the norm for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
and that gives us a competitive advantage, right? So people say, well, are you going to worry about or stress over as you have increasing staff acquisition needs and talent acquisition needs when it comes to labor? And I was like, there's no shortage of labor. There's a shortage of good labor jobs. And if we are that, then we will attract the best. And that you pick up good vendors and good technicians because they know each other and they will start talking, and they like half of our technicians know each other from before they started because they will recruit each other. People want the best for each other, most of them. So if it's the best thing is to work here, then that community will begin to understand and see that there's a better opportunity than the big box folks where you're actually a salesperson and not a tech.
Yeah. Just what a beautiful example for any industry. Gosh, listening to you. Are there any mantras or quotes that you go back to, especially when the going gets tough as you've been building this business over the years?
Listen to learn, not to talk.
That's a good one. Let's scream that from the hills for America, for sure.
Every encounter you have is an opportunity to get better. And you don't get better talking. You get better listening. You need to listen to your team members. You need to listen to your customers. You need to listen to your kids when they say slow down a little bit. Mommy-o, I want more time with you. You need to listen to your staff when they're saying, oh, I'm tired. There's a lot that you can just glean around how to be a better business person, and actually, more importantly, a better person, full stop, when you're paying more attention and listening deeply.
So true. And kind of leads into this next question about if someone came to you and they said, I want to make a difference. I see what you're doing. I'm so amazed by your work, but I don't know where to start. I feel overwhelmed. Is there any advice you'd give that person?
Yeah, pick one thing that you enjoy doing and figure out how you can share that with another person. And it could be, I like going for walks. Okay, great. Can you do a trash walk? And just pick trash up on the way on your walk. Like, there are things that you can do to build a better world that are just tacked on to your everyday. And you can start there and say, I got a little dopamine rush and that felt good. And so now I'm going to have a couple neighbors who I don't get to see very often. Now we're all going to do that together. And then we're going to have coffee at the end. You don't need to transform your life. You just need to make some modest adjustments. Or if you're someone like me and you're like, I'm going to go big and I want to get rich and give it all away. Like, there's something between I picked up garbage and I want to get rich and give it all away. And that has to depend on what you believe you can, what's your highest and best in terms of making a contribution. And everybody has a different answer to that question. The best thing to do is find an answer that feels good to you. And then that's achievable. So I have an example of a dry cleaner, or people saying like, oh, this doesn't apply to my business. So if you want to have it reflect on like your business environment, dry cleaner may say, how am I going to be a justice driven or purpose driven company? And well, what if you changed your techniques, improved the quality of the cleaning because there are different methods, and told all your customers, you only have to get your dry cleaning done half as often, like it'll last longer, and then raise your prices. And then go ahead and tell people what the carbon reduction is as a result of that. And then put a sandwich sign in the front that says, we saved this much carbon so far, and this is the weather for tomorrow. So that as you walk by, if you're in a pedestrian location, people are like, yay, I now know how I'm supposed to dress. And then you suddenly have a relationship with your clients. So you're not only differentiating yourself and doing something good for the world, you're more noticeable. You have set yourself apart from everyone. And so the pathway to being a better, more empathic, more justice-driven company is just a way of actually becoming a better company that is more competitive and doing better business.
Oh, fantastic advice. And that whole just like taking the time to think out of the box a bit and seeing where you could go with it. Like, look at these examples you've already given us just today.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to cost more. And it doesn't need to be, it absolutely does not need to be anything that's disruptive. It can fit right into what you're doing. If you have a marketing plan, maybe stop spending money on marketing and just do some volunteer events with organizations you care about, and they're going to care about your business a whole lot more. If you do a fundraiser for them and all you want in exchange is for them to just have better organizations. Like, whenever we do things for people, they're like, well, what would you like in return? I'm like, nothing. This is our responsibility. We do a large scale fundraiser, which we have for a long time, for an organization called La Clínica del Pueblo, which is a federally qualified health center providing, culturally appropriate, target language, wraparound healthcare for mostly immigrant Latin American community members. And we've raised anywhere from like $60,000 to $100,000 for them every year, putting on a big casino night, which is super fun, by the way. And I've had people, and it's a big lift, I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of energy. But there's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm for the event. And people said, like, why are you spending so much time on that? I'm like, who's building our city and whose bodies matter? Like, we can't just think everybody's going to go without healthcare while we want to get a good deal on something. Like, that doesn't feel good. So this is me supporting my staff, and it may not be direct support, but this is me supporting a lot of the team members that are here working and maintaining your homes.
Just fantastic. I feel so invigorated just hearing you talk here, Lisa. And please tell everybody where they can find you online, where they can learn more about what you do and find your book.
Yeah, you can just visit meetlisawise.com, and you will see the work that I'm doing with Flock, the work that I'm doing with BirdWatch. You can see a lot of my writing, and you can see the book there as well.
Excellent. Lisa, thank you so much. You are such a busy person. Thanks for your time today.
Oh, absolutely. It was my pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again and have a great week.